welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Chad Burdett, and my guest this evening is Dan Goldman, who is an Eisner-nominated creator, and we're going to be talking about that, his current red light properties, and his new publishing studio. Hello, Dan. How's it going?
Hi, Chad. How you doing? Thanks for having me. It is going good. It's going well. Yeah, having exciting times.
Well, before we get talking about that list of things that I just mentioned,
Mhm.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? As a comic book reader and as a comic book creator.
Hmm. What would you like to know?
Well, do you remember the first comic you read? Do you remember the first comic that
Yeah.
maybe made you want to that hooked you on to the medium?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The first comic I read, I don't remember the issue number, but it was a one of those 70s. I think it was Kurt Schaffenberger, Power of Shazam, that I found at a friend's house. I was probably in kindergarten. It's like 5 years old or so, and it was cartoonier than a Superman, and that kind of hit me perfect. Um, Superheroes, and then like bunny rabbits dressed as superheroes. That kind of that era of Shazam is fun. But yeah, I got really into comics. A couple years later, my family moved from Detroit to South Florida, and we were times were tough then, and I used to help my dad out on the weekends at flea markets. And if I was like a good boy sweating in the sun, we were selling blank VHS tapes for like $1 a piece. And if I really busted ass, can I say ass?
Yes.
Okay, if I really busted ass in the sun, um, I would get rewarded not just with a hot dog, but there was inevitably somebody's like grandma or aunt like getting rid of like garbage bags full of comics, and so I would bring those home to my brother, and we would like hole up all night with flashlights in the closet, like while we were supposed to be sleeping, and we were getting. It was kind of like the learning about comics by like shotgun blast, like that we never had any consecutive issues or any of the same title, but it was like you know DC, Marvel, Harvey, Charlton, uh Gold Key, like from like across many decades, just piles of like mildewy old comics from Florida garages. And that's how I got into comics. And let me see. I think with puberty, comics kind of went out of the picture for a while. And then I want to say like later in high school, I was spending more time at record shops. And the record shop that I really was like a second home to me was Blue Note Records here in North Miami, like rest in peace. But that was a great store. But they would also, there was one guy there who would buy like in the 90s, all the indie bands like 7 Inches and stuff like that. And I remember seeing Dan Clow's drawings on album covers for like bands like they called like the Super Suckers. There were a bunch of bands and he used to do a lot of that before he was super famous. And through that, I found 8 Ball, but very quickly found Love and Rockets. And when I found Love and Rockets, and I read Love and Rockets, particularly Gilberto's Palomar stuff, I was like, this is high art, and I want to do this. Like, if there's comics like this, I think there's space for me doing this. And that was when the light bulb went off for me.
And so after the light bulb went off, what began that journey, from there to where you find yourself now?
Oh, I mean, how long is this podcast? It's kind of a long story, but let me see. I had to find a space where stuff I was into aesthetically kind of aligned with I'm going to try to do this quickly. Um, a friend of mine, oh, we weren't friends at that point, but this guy opened this very cool comic book store in North Miami, and he was an Anglophile, and so he was stocking all this late '80s, early '90s British invasion comics, the stuff that became Vertigo but was not yet. But also he was importing Deadline magazine and oh god, Revolver, and it was this early, like, mature readers, British New Wave comic stuff. But it was also at the time where comics and like Acid House and Manchester, if that reference makes sense, was happening, and so there was like this feeling of like edgy but psychedelic work that I was getting exposed to in comics that was not in the U.S. at all. But I was lucky, and I was able to find it, and then from there, another big point for me was I was living in New York, and I saw a film called Waking Life, an animated movie by Richard Linklater that was all rotoscoped. And I had been doing, not rotoscoping, but I was using digital illustration programs to recreate logos for this crappy temp job that I was working at a bank at night in Manhattan. And so I learned how to do that. And then during the day, I went, I would just hang out and explore the city. And I caught a screening of Waking Life, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing at work, but with people in making animation. And I was like, if you do this one frame at a time, it's a panel. And if you could do this with people, like, I can do comics. So I started to apply with a Wacom stylus. I started taking pictures and drawing them, and then slowly, as I was getting more comfortable and building a style, with that, I was like, clearly there's an aesthetic here that I'm into. Let me combine that with narrative, sequential narrative. And I started to make pages, and then I started making comics. So, there are obviously longer data points here, but I just wanted to give you like the bright ones so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from.
Well, why don't we talk about Red Light Properties? The book that has been nominated for an Eisner. Am I correct?
You are correct.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about the overall story and the inspiration behind it.
Sure. So Red Light Properties is it's what I call tropical horror. It's a sort of like brightly lit Miami psychedelic horror. What it is it's about a husband who's a psychic who sees ghosts, and his wife who's a realtor who sees opportunity. And together they form a company, Red Light Properties, where they go all over South Florida, locating and exercising haunted houses that she then sells below market value for people that can't afford to buy a home anymore in the United States. So it's both, there's this sort of psychic paranormal work, and then on the other hand, there's a social good component where they're using psychic powers and metaphysical religion to hack an incredibly corrupt and crooked and greedy real estate landscape to help people. So that's the setup for the series. I happen to have a copy right here. So this book, the comic has gone through a handful of iterations over the years. There was a shorter version of this that was published by IDW about 10 years ago. And this edition is a kind of like the Criterion collection of the first season. So there's about 100 pages of comics in here that have never been in print before, and a lot of pages, like another 40 or 50 pages that were created for this edition. and this is the work that has been nominated for the Eisner Award this year for Best Publication Design.
And so what was the inspiration behind the story?
Oh, yeah, that was the second part of your question. Let me see. There were a few moments, but I would say a big one. I got to give a shout out to my mom, Carol Goldman, who she was a realtor in the 80s and 90s when I was a kid, and she would just pick me up from school and just tell me these crazy stories about houses and people she met, and there was always somehow there was always a death in there somewhere, or a crime, or a trauma, and like somehow they were both horrible and funny because Florida, and that just made me think about, as I was sitting in the back seat of the car looking out at people's houses and all these boring ass subdivisions, thinking about not only who lived in these houses, but who used to live in these houses before the people that lived there did. And there was just this idea of layers of time, and like what buildings can hold on to. And as I got older and I moved around in the world, like that concept is interesting anywhere you go, but in South Florida and Miami, it's super interesting. The history is like short and chaotic, and there's a lot of stuff to play with, and it's just allowed me to accumulate a lot of really cool material for the series.
So, when you were developing the characters, did you use any of your personal experiences or people you knew as kind of the models for them?
Yeah, I mean, yes, of course. I feel like whenever I write something, if I'm at some level, every character is some piece of me, or if not somebody I know. Just you always sort of see these little shards of things into the characters that I think make them three-dimensional. Give them you give them dreams, and you give them failures, and you give them triggers, and kind of it lets them bounce. When you build a character right, you build a character three-dimensionally, I think and then you put them in a scene together, they sort of bounce off each other automatically, or hang on to each other, kind of depending what the chemistry is. But so yeah, definitely. I mean, the sort of drugged out, psychedelic, psychic sensitivity of one of our main characters, Jude, like is definitely comes from me in my 20s and maybe 30s. And and then his wife Cecilia, like there's huge pieces of her that come from people that I've known. All the characters are touched at some point by things in my life. Yeah.
Now, are there any of the characters that you were particularly enjoyed writing or developing throughout?
I mean, that's like, which one is your favorite child? I love them all. I love them all. They're all weird. They're all fun. They're all challenging. I love writing their little son, Turi. I love writing Jude's sort of former mentor, Rory, who has he is a very powerful psychic who has 7 distinct spirits inside of him in addition to his own. So he reads as like what 100 years ago would be called schizophrenic, and maybe earlier he would be like a possession case, but he's in full control of them, and so he's a lot of fun to write. Jude's assistant Zoya's a trip. I think she's just hilarious person to just kind of let her wander into the scene and be chaotic. I love them all. They're all really fun. For me, like I love dialogue, and I love character. For me, character drives my interest in a story. So whether it's whether it's a comic or a film or a TV show or a book, like if I can't hook into the characters, I usually don't stick with it. And so
Mm.
for my own work, uh, creating hooky, sticky characters is like job number one. Because then I feel like, if they're if you're involved in them as the audience, you'll
Mhm.
follow them anywhere through any wild stuff that I can throw at you.
Now, when you were writing it, did you do research into the whole psychic, things? Are you into it, or how did you go
Um,
about?
yes and yes. A lot of research, and I am also into it. And so it allowed me to fold kind of different layers of myself into it, but
Mhm.
there were obvious like research gaps. So there are a lot of things that I didn't know about, like remote viewing, or you know, geez, I'm off the top of my head, other things. And so
Mhm.
the opportunity to dig in and learn and sort of synthesize these ideas it just makes everything better. So that's been a big part of it too. Um, and when you're doing these kinds of stories where it is the mystical stuff, like an exorcism is basically on some level is time travel. You go into a haunted place, and the ghost thinks it's still in the past, and so it's up to our shaman to go in and sort of fetch them and get them to disperse. But in that process, like he's jumping back like decades into wherever the ghost got stuck. And so it's not a literal time travel, but on a spiritual level it kind of is. And so that gives me an opportunity to do research into like the neighborhoods and the social trends and the blah blah blah, like everything of that time, the way people speak and dress, and that's really fun too. I mean, I love it.
Mhm.
It's I didn't go to art school. I went to school for film and literature, and so
Mhm.
um, my approach to making comics is very production based, and and in that, you know uh, research and building a look and a feel is all part of it, and that's just kind of how I'm wired, I think, as a comic storyteller.
And so you're in the process or of building your own publishing studio label, Kinjin. Is that correct?
Yeah, they published the book.
Okay.
Kinjin Story
Uh,
Lab is the publisher of the
right.
Eisner-Nominated.
Tell us a little bit about Kinjin Story Lab and kind of what it what went into that and where you'd like to see it go. I like to
Sure.
ask like 5 questions at once.
Yeah, no, I noticed. It's good. It's okay. I can bullet point it in my head. So like I've worked for a lot of big book publishers over the course of my career. I've been making comics, in and out of comics for probably 20 years. Um, and I've worked more with big book trade publishers like Random House
Mhm.
and Grand Central, than I have with comic book publishers. And so um, I had a book, but right before the pandemic happened, I had a book come out with humanoids,
Mhm.
and I wanted to set up a signing. And when I went to my amazing local bookstore in Los Angeles, um, they told me that all this stuff that I'd been working on for a decade or more was was not available anymore. It was either out of print or had been remaindered. Um, and I was like, so the book industry has erased part of my career, and like that can't happen again. So my thinking about around that was, how do I control my own work? How do I
Mhm.
retain um, not just the rights, but like the means of production. And so it took me a couple years to sort of figure this out. And in that process, I never fell out of love with red light properties. It's always been my favorite thing I've ever done so far, anyway. And so I think I just knew at some point that series was going to come back, and that idea dovetailed with wanting to start Kinjin Story Lab. Kinjin Story Lab was originally my creative studio. I've had that as a corporation since 2014, and all of the work I've done with not just comics but with video games and like doing transmedia projects and television and working in animation, everything has gone through Kinjin Story Lab. But it was in 2024 when I decided I was like, I'm gonna launch like the publishing arm of it, and that's where all of this started. It was with the Kickstarter for Red Light Properties. And so what is it about? What is Kinjin Story Lab about? To me, first and foremost, I wanted to kind of plant my flag. Like, this is the level I'm working at in terms of quality, in terms of like sophistication of storytelling, in terms of how I wanted to not just design but distribute my own work, how I wanted to not rely on a crumbling distribution system that in comics never really worked in the first place. But instead, I was going to leverage the internet to sell directly to my customers first and foremost, and grow that audience, and then slowly, expand out from there. And so I am in the audience growing phase still, but it's been really good, and it's interesting, when you work this way. Like, I've got my books, or I have a warehouse. I have a nice lady named Susan who ships my orders when they come in, and like I can go to cons and I can sell you the book, because this thing weighs 5 pounds. So like, to schlep this around at a convention for a weekend is kind of miserable. So people can come to me at shows, and I can sell them the book with free shipping on my phone, and then they go home a couple days later and it shows up. And I mean, I think that's amazing. But I do it without a distributor. I do it without any kind of middleman or bookstore. And so I can tell you, for the first time in my like 20-year career, like, how much money am I actually making, like, week to week, which is incredibly empowering as an artist and as an entrepreneur.
So I know you kind of touched on it before, but how has you said you went to film school and you worked in animation, and I believe you also mentioned video games. How has that influenced the way you approach comics, and has comics influenced the way you approach those other projects?
Yeah, I mean, it's all one path. Everything, if the resume goes like this, the truth is it's all narrative. It's all storytelling. And so there are things that I brought into video games from comics, and there's things that I brought into video games from comics, and there's things that I brought from video games back into my comics. And that goes for everything. And that's in terms of storytelling and pacing, but it's also given me a really interesting and I think very unique way of looking at what story is and how it can function. Like, you can have a great story world. I say sometimes to people, stories like it's like a liquid, and you can pour the story of Red Light Properties. You can pour it into a comic, and it takes one shape. It takes the shape of that container. You can pour it into a video game, and it'll take the shape of that container. So the narrative adjusts to like whatever container you design for it. So that's the kind of thinker I am, yeah. So I think I've learned a lot in everything I've done, and I'm always trying to experiment and always trying to take risks, both with like form, with the stories themselves, and with the way that I produce them. So over the course of 20 years, I've changed a lot and I've learned a lot.
So if you could tell yourself from 20 years ago, one piece of advice that you know now, what do you think that would be? Or would you even like not tell yourself anything that way they learned, as they went?
I mean, yeah, I think I would not tell myself anything, but no, yeah, I would. I guess, when you're starting out, you doubt yourself, and especially if you're doing something that no one's done before. And I think I would tell myself 20 years ago, you're not good yet, and that's going to be practice, but you know exactly what you're doing.
And did somebody, give you some advice that was really helpful, in your comics journey, that has really stuck with you?
Yeah, I don't know if I had a comics mentor per se, but I used to I had a year or so when I lived in New York where I worked at DC Comics. I had not made any comics yet, but I was in like the marketing department there, and I was around the corner from Denny O'Neill's office. And you familiar with Denny O'Neill?
Oh yeah, I was lucky enough to interview him before he passed.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. So yeah, I would always get in trouble because I just go hang out with him in his office and bullshit with him while I was supposed to be working. And anyway, there was one point where I don't remember what I said, but I said something, and he just looked at me funny, and he was like, "What are you doing here? What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be a writer." I did not think I'd be an artist too. That was not really in the cards until I saw Waking Life a couple years later. But yeah, Denny O'Neill was like, "You want to be a writer?" He's like, "How old are you?" And I was 23, 24. And he's like, "Quit this job." He's like, "You have nothing to say. Quit this job and go live your life." He's like, "Go travel, go fall in love, go do dumb things." He's like, "You have no idea who you even are yet. So you should go figure that out, and then you'll have something to write about." And I think I was at DC Comics maybe another 6 weeks because he was right, and I knew it. It made me, when somebody drops something like that on me, and it makes me angry, like really angry. It usually means that they're right, and I haven't fully processed it yet. And that really pissed me off in the moment, and I went back to my office, and, thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to quit this job. I'm gonna go figure that part out." It felt true.
Did you ever expect that you would be nominated for an Eisner Award?
Did I ever suspect? I mean, this is going to sound like a flex, but it's not. It's not my first one.
Okay.
So, my first Eisner nomination was for Best Digital Comic in like 2007.
Okay.
So it's, did I ever suspect I would get nominated for another one? I don't know. I'm not. I mean, it's an honor, and it's an honor to be nominated. I know that's a cliche, but it is actually, especially to be the only like DIY publisher in that category. I did this entire thing myself, and I don't think there are that many people on anywhere in the nominee list that can say that outside of like the digital or webcomics categories. So that's a big deal to me, and it feels like it could potentially say something about the power of taking control of what you're doing. And so, like going back to what we were saying about Kinjin Story Lab, like that's incredibly validating. But beyond that, like it's nice to be on the list. I just want to do more work, and I just want to
Mhm.
be like I just want to be really good, like for a long time. That's the plan. And like awards, yeah, sure. I really want people to read the work. I really, and this is a good way for people who have never heard of red light properties to put some eyes on it and get into the world. I think that's the most important thing for me.
And I know you've probably already mentioned a few of these, but who which writers inspire you as a creator and make you want to push you know your where you are as a creator?
Hmm. Um, I love the Hernandez brothers. We're talking about writers. We're not talking about
Mhm.
art,
No.
comic art. For that, I would. I mean, the Hernandez brothers. Geez, uh, I really love the story structures of Naoki Urasawa. Um, I really like the last Taiyo Matsumoto manga. I think it's the last one, the Tokyo These Days. It's a great story. Um, I think in mainstream comics, I think my favorite writer right now would be, um, I think it would be Tom King.
Okay.
I think Tom King, I really respect what he's doing, and I think that every time he puts his name on something, it's a big swing in a very unexpected direction that wows me. Um, and then as far as artists, I mean, I love weird stuff. I and stuff that sort of like overlaps with my own work that I feel I can get excited about. So I really like
Mhm.
um, Bill Sienkiewicz and Martin Simmons. I think is amazing. He's nominated for an Eisner now right now for Department of Truth. But I love painted comics. When I saw my first painted comics art was the first time I'd ever set foot in a comic book store. And it was covers by Sienkiewicz, um, and I had never seen anything. I didn't know that was possible, and for me, I could never really go backwards. So like, I mean, I appreciate cartooning, I love it, but like, if something is like colors that are just on fire, full color, painted, there's nothing like that.
Mhm.
Um, there's no comparison. That's a hot take, and people are gonna be mad. But so I when I put together pages, because I work digitally, um, I have the ability to go full blast color, and I always take that opportunity. Um, and I like to do pages that people get lost in, get immersed in,
Mhm.
and yeah. So, and another big one for me would be Jamie Hewlett. I mean, even now he's not doing comics anymore; he's doing the Gorillaz band, but he's a massive influence. He was the guy where when the first Gorillaz album came out and he had put moving 2D characters on like photographic backgrounds, I was like this is the way. And
Mhm.
I'd seen it done a couple times, but just on like comic covers. There was like a Web of Spider-Man did it a little bit, or Steranko did it in the 60s like once. Kirby used a little bit of collage, but I always thought that was very compelling. And so with Photoshop and digital tools, like I could go harder into that than I think anyone ever had before. And
Mhm.
I kind of built my career on that. So um, I think I've answered your question.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to mention about the book, your publishing studio, or anything else that you wanted to?
um, yeah, sure. So not only is Red Light Properties, the first season, Unfinished Business, is it's available. And but beyond that, the second season is rolling on. So Kinjin Story Lab, as I said, is not just we don't just publish books. It's a creative studio, and there's a newsletter, and the newsletter is not marketing; it's actually storytelling. So I send comics, serialized comics via newsletter, email newsletter, and also short stories and serialized novellas. So you can join that newsletter at kinjin.co and kinjin.co, and that's free, and you can just come along for the ride. So we are serializing right now the second storyline in the second season of Red Light Properties, and I will be releasing some new print editions, probably starting on Kickstarter very soon, and that will eventually, when that second season is complete, we'll do another giant, beautiful hardcover. Um, and then as far as other plans for Kinjin Story Lab, there's another graphic novel that we're in production on right now called Muncie Blues that was developed through a digital storytelling fellowship. And I don't want to talk too much about it right now, but
Sure.
it will look like nothing else, and it will it swings pretty hard. So
Now is the red light properties, is that like an ongoing story that you want to tell, or do you have a finite ending that you know that it's going to,
yeah,
end when you're ready?
yes, good question. Yeah, I absolutely know the ending. I have known the ending for 20 years, and yeah, I'm working towards it. I know it sounds funny when I'm like, season one is done. I think I mean I've spent all this time kind of like in and out of comics, but the process that I work with and the technology that I'm working with to produce it is getting better and better and better. And so I will be picking up speed. I have a small team of brilliant people that are helping me, and it's going to get faster. And yeah, I absolutely know the ending, and that is it's a combination of like knowing the destination and letting the journey get a little weird along the way when it needs to.
Nice. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time this evening to chat. And when you're ready to do go and do the Kickstarter for the season 2, then let's try to get back together, because we do a weekly roundup of crowdfunding
Oh, great.
things. And I definitely want to make sure that we get you on there and help you get your meet your funding goals when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. That would be great. I'll hit you up in a couple months, probably 2 months. I'm about 2 months away from being serious about it. Yeah.
Oh, then we'll definitely probably have more to talk about. And are you on social media or?
Yes. Dan Goldman, one word, at Instagram. I'm on Instagram, but I hate it. I'm on Blue Sky as well, at dangoldman.net. And what else am I on? I don't remember. And you can get Red Light Properties at kinjin.co. There's a link, so it's shop.kinjin.co. And yeah, you're buying that book directly from me, and it's coming from my warehouse, and I did everything. So you will feel the love when you hold the book, all 5 pounds of that comic in your hands. It is a slab of psychedelic love. So I encourage you people to check it out.
Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time this evening to talk, and look forward to hopefully catching up with you in a couple months. And best of luck in July. And
Thank you.
yeah, it was
Awesome.
nice, great meeting you, and glad we were able to connect.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, well, have a great evening.
Thanks. You too. Take it easy.